You have a litter of puppies. What, knowing the strengths of your family, when you're selecting these puppies, what would your selection process be? I mean, how would you go about evaluating a line-bred litter versus an outcross litter?
Well, when you make an outcross, you've made an outcross to pick up something that you need. And so you want to be sure and keep a puppy that has what you need. The only eliminating factor would be any puppies without pretty expression. You would not keep them. But otherwise, you would keep the puppy that picked up what you need. And even if it wasn't a dog that you showed had finished, then you would want to breed it back into your line to bring that back into your line.
Even if it was, given the fact that this family of dogs we're talking about is very strong in head detail and skull, and that's very important. So say the puppy had the pretty expression, but not quite the skull. Would you be concerned about that if you took it back to your family that had this?
If it's not quite the skull, the degree, it would not concern me because I would be breeding it back into the family where it's very strong. But if it has like the short hock or the well-curved stifle that I went after, then I would also be breeding that into my family. So yeah, it would depend on the degree of what the fault
eye and the
is.
expression and the eye placement.
And
would be
especially
paramount.
since my line is strong for that, I wouldn't have to worry about it.
Great, thanks.
When Joyce made the comment about if she took a dog in the ring and it just didn't want to show, you asked, what did you do with it? And Joyce says, well, when I came out of the ring, I'd give the dog away. Well, I'm the recipient of 2 of those dogs. And every once in a while, you get a dog that I'm just going to say it had a bad day. And I was lucky enough to be there when that dog had a bad day, and Joyce said, here you go. And I said, thank you very much, put the dog in the car, and I ran home. And I just wanted to thank Joyce for that opportunity.
Well, there were a few of them that finished, but I just didn't want to work that hard. And then, there's some dogs you get that you just have a personality clash with. They don't like you or you don't like them. And someone else they might like. Or the next person figures out the key to that dog, figures out what they're interested in, and is able to get them to show for them. But we just didn't click.
Joyce, you said that you would go to the show when you first started, and you saw something that you liked better and would pick it out. Did you choose just by your eye, or was there a lot of background studying to do that?
When you have your dog at home and you love your dog and you look at them, you think they're beautiful. I think my 2 little mutts are beautiful. But when you get them in the ring next to a beautiful dog, surely then you'll see the difference. You can still love them, but they're not going to win.
When you, like you said, you went to the shows and you'd stand there with your dog in the ring and you'd look at the dog next to you and you'd think, which one would I rather take home? What was it, how did you develop your eye that you could tell these things? Because a lot of people, I think, they just don't have an eye for a dog. And how do you develop it, or do you think it's just naturally born into someone?
I think to see expression is born into you. Either you can see it whenever somebody will come to the kennel, if they're not even a dog person, they would always pick out our best dog just because they looked like a good dog and they were beautiful. I think either you have the eye for the expression or you don't have the eye. But you have to be honest. You can't let your emotions for the dog make you think they're beautiful if they're not.
You obviously owner-handled all of your dogs, really, to their championships, and a lot of people sitting in the room today are also owner-handlers. What tips would you give to people to try and at least approach your level of success?
Okay. Again, go to the shows and watch the different handlers and notice the little things that they're doing, and take your dogs to training classes. And the handlers at the training classes can give you tips. Plus, you'll be more relaxed in the ring, and the dog will be more relaxed in the ring, and go in the ring and have fun. I often played with my dogs in the ring so that they enjoyed it and I enjoyed it.
Currently, the Breeder of the Year award is under review by the CC of A, with talk about possibly altering it or doing away with it. And I just wanted to know, as a multi-recipient of that award, what your thoughts are and what it took for you to achieve that award.
Well, I think it would be wrong to eliminate it. I think that you should celebrate when a person has worked hard and has finished all those champions, bred those champions and finished those champions. I always felt that the reason for the CC of A was promote the breeding of good collies and the showing of good collies. Now, I agree with the rescue. I agree with the ability, the service dogs, but I don't think that the CC of A should forget that they're here to promote the breeding of beautiful collies and the showing of beautiful collies.
And the standard.
And the standard.
One of the, in the discussion of this elimination of the Breeder of the Year award, so I guess my question is, what is a breeder? One of the proposals was that it isn't just number of champions, but that other factors should come into play, like, does the dog have a performance title or a herding title? So, I guess in line with what you're saying, the CC of A is about breeding dogs, and do you think anything else should come into play, or it's the pure breeding and the promotion and the preservation of the standard?
I think for Breeder of the Year, it should be the breeding of champions. Like I said, I think the ability, the agility, obedience, rescue, all of that is great and should be part of the CC of A. But for Breeder of the Year, it's how many champions that you finish that year.
I agree. They can always make another award for that other aspect of it.
Right.
Separate award for best overall? Like
Yes.
They do, actually. They have it already.
And to have the Breeder of the Year, you work very, very hard for that. It's 24 hours a day just about that you're working to get up to be Breeder of the Year. Now they give an award for, like the top 10 winning collies. Okay, in the past there have been a few collies that because they were pushed at all-breed shows with big all-breed handlers, they ended up number one. Well, you can't fix Breeder of the Year. Either you bred and you finished those dogs or you didn't. The money is not what's going to get you the win.
One of the things that was on the flyer was I said that we would discuss some breeding principles. So I put these together for Southern Cal, and I'm going to read them, and then we're going to look at them in the context of Joyce's breeding program. Okay?
Okay.
Trust me, Joyce. Okay, principles to breed by. Number 1, look to the dams of the stud dogs. It is the bitch that provides the complement to the sire and determines the distinction among his offspring, both in quality and producing ability.
Well, I definitely looked at the bitch, but I also looked at the grandfather because they're close enough. Now, maybe 5 generations back, it's not going to show up too much. But for the first generation and the second generation, that's what you're going to get.
You're ahead of me here. Wait. Go back. We're going to go back to the dams of the stud dogs. So that nitty-gritty, Amazing Grace. There were lots of grit offspring, or there were a lot of PS offspring, but only some of them had certain mothers that actually brought something to the party, positive to the party. So in Joyce's program, right off the bat, she was looking for a good dam for a stud dog when she handed that money to Pat Gorka, or is it? Yeah, Forrest, I guess the name is. Okay, number 2, which Joyce wanted to leak here, was look to the grandparents to see the potential of a breeding combination. If the qualities you're seeking aren't there, you aren't going to get them. So, what about that, Joyce? Elaborate a little bit.
Okay, even if you would, in that dog, get the qualities that the grandparents don't have, they're not going to be dominant for producing it. If all 4 grandparents and the father and the mother have the same quality, they're going to be dominant for producing it.
Number 3, evaluate the producing ability of a dog or a bitch by the best offspring they produce. All dogs can produce uninspiring or poor offspring, but very few can produce superior individuals.
Again, that goes back to him being a dominant sire. You want to breed to a sire that is producing the good qualities in a lot of puppies. If he's only produced it in one puppy, perhaps it was the bitch that gave the quality.
Y'all get that? I hear people at the CC of A, there'll be a dog there, and that I think, gee, this dog, really has some virtue. And then I'll hear them say, did you see so-and-so's puppy by dog X that didn't place in the puppy class? Who cares about that one? I want to know, can they produce the one that really knocks my socks off and inspires me? Do you know what I mean? Not all dogs can do that. And Joyce, when do you think that shows up in a dog's career?
With ours, we usually knew by the time they were 6 months old if it was there or not.
No, I mean in the actual stud dog's career.
Oh, in the stud dog. I would say he'd have to be bred to 3 or 4 bitches to see that you're going to consistently get the look that you want.
It shows up pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
Some people spend years trying to make a stud dog, to make themselves right that this is my next great producer. Okay, number 4. Don't knowingly introduce problems. All dogs have the potential to produce health problems. Play the odds and breed to dogs that are health checked whenever possible. If you haven't had a certain problem yet, you will if you work with nature for any length of time.
Particularly with the health problems that you can get, it's really rough because so many of them are recessive. You don't necessarily see that you've got it. And then once it's into your line, it'll take years and years to get rid of it. Whereas other faults, a large eye, you're going to see that. But if they've got some health problem, you might not know that for years.
Can be carried along for generations without showing up. But if you know dog X has this certain problem, yeah, they're all going to throw something. They're all going to throw something, but if they're throwing it,
If it's hidden.
Number 5, be realistic. If there isn't something inspiring in your litter, don't keep anything. The mentality now, because people have 1 or 2 litters a year or 1 litter every other year, then they think they have to keep something because that's what they've got. but that's not going to raise the bar for you.
Well, it's easy to pick the best puppy in the litter, but it doesn't mean that it's a really good dog. It's just the best one in that litter. So you have to not only look for the best in the litter, but be sure that it's what you're going to want and what you're going to want to keep.
And where does it stand quality-wise in relationship to the parents or the grandparents?
So what you're saying, the best of crap is still crap.
Yes. So eloquently put, yes. Thank you. Next, selection is the key. Be ruthless and remain steadfast to your priorities. That's what Carol Fayback was talking about. Be true to yourself. Be true to your ideal, the picture that you have. It's your picture. You know, it isn't your friend. Don't breed for agreement. Breed for the standard. What else, Joyce, about that? Joyce was a ruthless selector.
Yes, very important. And a lot of people think because you discard a dog, you're turning them loose on the street. You're putting them into a nice pet home where they're going to lay on the sofa and be fed treats. The dog's going to love it. And you're going to move out that dog and have room to keep a dog that's going to win for you in the show ring or breed your champions.
Okay, she's always ahead of me here. Next one. Keep your numbers down. You only need to keep the best, not the most.
Well, that's what I had said, was that one of the important things, one of the important advice that I would give is to cull your dogs. Don't keep too many dogs. You just want good dogs, not a lot of dogs.
This is next. Evaluate your dogs by comparing them to the best there is now and the best of the past, rather than what is winning in the ring today. There's a lot of this, it's good enough to win under certain judges, where it's really like a crapshoot. You want to look at winning under the judges that are well respected, that are knowledgeable, and you want, I'm sure, you want the approval or the admiration of your dog to be from people whose opinion you respect, who are knowledgeable. You know, Joyce said she took her dogs to the shows, and you wanted people to like them, especially certain people.
And even if you didn't win, if ringside thought your dog was beautiful, you had won.
Okay, this is the last one that I have here. You can add to this if you'd like. What ye sow, ye shall reap. Don't add something to the gene pool if you don't want it to show up. That's common sense. I mean, people do breedings. They take, it's more than taking a risk. It's putting yourself at risk, you know, knowingly putting yourself at risk. It doesn't make any sense to me, because whatever you put into this little paper bag and shake it up, it's going to come out. It might not come out the first generation,
Right.
but it's going to show up.
You're lucky if it comes out the first generation. Then you can get rid of it.
Questions?